Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining a Milestone webinar. Today, we are joined with Pat McDonald and Mark Nicholson with Baton. We're going to be discussing Milestone's market readiness service and Baton's marketplace for small businesses. But before we dive in, I'm going to introduce myself quickly, and then I'll let Pat and Mark introduce themselves and give a little more background on Milestone and Baton. My name is Will Oberndorfer. I'll be your moderator today. I'll also be kind of playing the part of a small business owner. So trying to ask these guys the questions as if I'm a small business owner myself and seeing what value that Milestone and Baton can give small business owners. So that's the role I'll be playing. And then Pat and Mark will obviously be vouching for both market readiness and Baton and the partnership that Milestone and Baton will bring. So Pat, I'll start with you. Give us some background on yourself and Milestone.
Yeah, thanks, Will. My name is Pat McDonald. I'm a managing director at Milestone. I actually serve two capacities at Milestone. I'm a fractional CFO for clients on the finance side. And then also I lead our market readiness group, as Will just mentioned. Prior to joining Milestone, I was in private equity for the last 5 years, working for a small niche firm, ultimately buying and selling businesses, and then operating those businesses along the way. Prior to that, I had experience in the healthcare technology space, helping grow, scale, and sell businesses. So that's a little bit about me, and I'll pass it over to Mark to introduce himself.
Hi, guys. Thanks all for joining. My name is Mark Nicholson. I'm the head of partnerships and growth at Baton. And previously to Baton, I was in a revenue-based financing company called Wayflyer, where I was a head of partnerships there also. And then before that, I kind of was in the health and wellness space, where I ran the growth program at a supplement company. So yeah, Baton is a relatively new company. We are building a marketplace for small business acquisitions, and part of that is, providing a value to small business owners in areas that we can fulfill. So that's kind of the reason behind our partnership with Milestone, and things have been going very well so far. And I'm excited about this conversation today on how we can, help small business owners, first of all, understand the valuation of their business and then prep for exit should they wish to do so.
Awesome. And I love the imagery just in the name of Baton, handing off the business from one owner to the other. I think that's an awesome name that kind of pairs along with your mission. Cool. So Pat, maybe as a small business owner, market readiness doesn't jump out as what it exactly means. Can you dive into what market readiness means and what that service is that Milestone provides?
Yeah, sure. So and I'll kind of dive into this from a market readiness perspective, but before I do, I want to make sure I intro Milestone. And Milestone is a fractional accounting and finance group. We also have fractional HR services and payroll services. So we're a small team of about 52 employees, and we serve clients across multiple industries. And so really, I mentioned that because what we do every day is ultimately market readiness, right? So we're helping businesses every day get ready for the next chapter. That next chapter can come in multiple different flavors, right? That next chapter might be going out as a lifestyle business over the next however many years. That next chapter might mean selling the business in the next 3 to 5 years. It could mean needing to go raise money, right? Or what we see increasingly in the marketplace today is it might mean passing it down to the next generation. And regardless of what your plan is with your business, it's important to start thinking about market readiness, because you never know when an unsolicited offer for your business might come. And so what we do in market readiness is we become really intentional about helping business owners look at their business from the outside and get into the weeds with them, so that things are cleaned up and get their house in order, so that we can take their business to market at some point in the future. And the best analogy that I can kind of come up with to relay this is, you wouldn't go sell your house without cleaning up your front steps, or cleaning up, something in the basement, or, doing whatever it takes to get your house ready for the market. We find that the best businesses today act as if they're going to exit the company in 60 days. And when I say act as if, it's not as if they're actually planning for a sale in the next 60 days, but if they're going through their financials and looking at, accrual accounting, looking at EBITDA maximization, looking at cash flow, projecting out into the future, comparing budget to actuals, right? If they're doing all of those steps, ultimately they'll be in a better position to market the business when that time comes to exit.
Awesome. And, Pat, you talked about market readiness, getting ready for you to sell their business and know the valuation. But Mark, can you talk, why is it important to know the valuation? If I don't have any plan to sell my small business in the next 5 to 10 years, why is it important for me to know the valuation of my business?
Yeah, thanks, Will. I think it's something that we always say that Pat touched on there, and it's actually the house analogy as well. Everyone knows how much their house is worth, so why shouldn't you know how much your business is worth? And we feel like knowledge is power in that sense. And there's an interesting statistic that 98% of small business owners don't actually know how much their business is worth, but 70% would like to know. And I think the problem there is it can cost $8,000 to $10,000 to get an accurate valuation on your business. This is just not something that's often a priority for small business owners, or they don't want to spend that kind of money on it. But I think if you can understand, what your business is worth today, then you can really decide, okay, do I want to further grow my business? Should I look to exit in the next year, in the next 3 years? What is my game plan? But without, having that information at your disposal, how can you make a decision on what the best next steps are for you? So I think it's just having that reliable data available to you, and that's kind of what we're trying to do here at Baton. And we look at our model as we're obviously building a marketplace for small business acquisitions, but before that, our model is know, grow, and sell. And the reason we say that is because we're providing small business owners with a free valuation on their business, but an extremely accurate valuation at that. And that's the first, value add. And we think that data should be available to all small business owners so that they can, make the best educated next steps. Then our next kind of arm of the business is grow. And that's a lot of small business owners will come to us, they'll get a valuation on their business, which we are very happy to provide to any small business owner. And then from there, they'll say, okay, I'm not actually ready to sell at that valuation. How do I grow my business? And that grow side of things is where partners like Milestone come into play, who can help them, clean up their books. And I know one of the biggest pitfalls to not being ready to sell is having bad books. So I think this is going to be a good partnership. But then, so that's grow, and then sell is obviously speaks for itself, where we have a network of buyers looking to buy small businesses, and we kind of facilitate that whole deal from start to finish with M&A advisors that we have in house. But I think just to reiterate, knowing your valuation, similarly to knowing the value of your home, it allows you to understand, okay, what are my best next steps here? How do I plan for the future? And when I know what my business is worth, I can kind of unlock my future and know what to do with my business.
Yeah, Mark, you threw out a good statistic that 98% don't know what their business is worth. Why is that? Why don't entrepreneurs understand their own value of their own business? This is sweat. It's what we put our hearts into, but why don't we understand that number?
I think, first of all, the cost element to get an accurate valuation on your business, as I said, it can cost $8,000 plus. That's just not something that a small business owner thinks they should prioritize. Also, as we know, small business owners are trying to run a business. They're probably doing multiple roles as maybe CFO, CEO, head of marketing. They can be doing everything at times. So sometimes it is not a priority for them. And one of my colleagues made an interesting analogy the other day, saying, like, you're not on LinkedIn because you're looking for a job. And we kind of believe that you shouldn't be on Baton because you're looking to sell your business. Everyone should know the value of their business. And I just think that small business owners are obviously so preoccupied with the rest of the things going on in their life. And whilst that's so important, if they could take a step back and go, okay, let's look at this from a 10,000 foot view. What is my business worth right now? And from there, I can then decide, oh, maybe I would, look to sell it at that valuation, or, if I could grow it to another 500,000 in that valuation, then I'd be interested in selling. But how do I get there? So I think it's more of a realization of, okay, if I can understand, how much it's worth today, then I can decide what the best next steps are. But I think, it's a multitude of factors of, being extremely busy. Small business owners are, it's expensive. And a lot of small business owners are not too keen on, plugging all of their financials or allowing someone to have a lot of access to everything that's going on inside their business. But, with Baton, you're under NDA. It's completely, we're not allowed to share any of that data, and we can wipe that data for you once you've got your valuation. So that shouldn't be something they'd be worried about. But I would say those would be the three main things, not wanting someone to get access to all of their financials, being extremely busy, and then it being expensive and inaccessible to get that data, whereas we're trying to solve all of those three problems.
Yeah, Mark, I love what you all are doing. And, I guess you mentioned a stat earlier about 97% not knowing the value of their business. And I think it's staggering when you look at, why we decided to really get involved with market readiness and become intentional about it is because over the next 10 years, you're going to have 250,000 businesses exit, right? And so there's going to be 250,000 small businesses or medium-sized businesses looking to exit at some point. And when you look at the number that will actually achieve a successful valuation upon exit, that number is only 6%. And so with the generational wealth transfer and the $75 trillion that's out there passing down to the next generation or passing out, it's a pretty staggering number. And then on top of that, the average entrepreneur or small business owner has 80% of their net worth or more tied up in the business. And so it starts to compound, right? And I think the valuation from our perspective at Milestone is a starting point. It's good to know, right, what that number is. It's also good to isolate what drives that value, right? And model out and become focused on how you increase that value in the future. So, if you have 80% of your net worth tied up in a business and you need to exit in the next 3 to 5 years, how are we going to get there, right? How are we going to build the roadmap and actually execute to get there? And so we look at it from a focused priority plan perspective and try to get the business owner to that next level so that they're ready to achieve that successful exit.
Pat, with only 6% successfully exiting, can you maybe, in your experience, share a story that represents the common entrepreneur failing to, meet that threshold to get their desired valuation, or where the pitfall lands on a small business owner? Can you share a story of that kind of represents that failure to exit successfully?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Will. I love stories, right? And you hear these crazy stories about why a deal didn't go through or what happened on a clawback or whatever it might be. But I'll share a few. I'll share. At my time, I worked for a small healthcare startup company called Isalis, and we failed to sell the business twice. So we had been approached by our investors about getting ready for an exit. So we went to market twice. Ultimately, didn't sell. The first time, it really came down to the fact that our forecast was not reliable. We were focusing on too many different specialties in the healthcare space, and our forecast was not reliable. So we weren't hitting our forecast. The potential private equity group that was going to buy us ultimately decided not to. And I think a big part of it was because our forecasting, our modeling was not reliable. So they couldn't rely on that in the future to value the business ultimately, right? So that was the first failure. The second one was a market issue where one of our competitors got fire sold for pennies on the dollar. And so we were 2 weeks away from closing, and that happened. And so that was outside of our control. And those things do happen throughout the process of a transaction. There's a lot that can go wrong from day one to close, right? As most people know, if they've been through a transaction. It feels like there's more opportunity for it to go wrong than right sometimes. And so that was the second one. The third time we achieved a successful exit at a multiple that was higher than what we were expecting the first two rounds, because we went back to the drawing board and we focused in on 3 to 4 really important medical specialties that we did well at. And we put a budget together. Our financial reporting was very tight. And I think that when we got to the table at that deal, we were in a much better position to succeed. And that deal took about 60 days to close, which is a normal time period. Our accounting was in order. Our financials were good. Our deck was good. And I think we just presented better to the investor. And that was kind of and the outcome of having failed twice. We learned what didn't work and we fixed it, and then we got it right the third time. I'll give you just one more story. I worked for a residential security company. We had purchased an HVAC company to get more into the home space, and that deal actually did go through. Ultimately, about 6 months after purchase, I was reviewing sales orders or sales estimates, right? So HVAC technician goes out in the field. Typically there's a sales staff, and then there's the actual technician that comes in behind and does the work. And the sales estimate had sales tax, right? Well, based on the rules in the state that we were operating, there shouldn't have been sales tax on the sale. And so I started tracing sales estimates to sales orders to invoices in the system, and I realized that we were actually collecting sales tax when we should not have been. And so sales tax is if not the number one deal killer, it's definitely a top 2 or 3 killer. And so what we did as the purchaser in that deal is we went back 10 years. We refunded every customer that paid us sales tax. That ended up being many millions of dollars. And we also went back to the seller and approached them to claw back part of the deal. So just because you get to the deal doesn't mean that the risk is gone, right? And so we ended up taking, as I mentioned, I won't state the exact numbers, but many millions of dollars back on that deal because the valuation was actually overstated. So the sales tax was on the sales order, but the sales tax wasn't in the system, right? And so we were recording revenue, company was recording revenue, ultimately inflated their valuation when we bought the business. And so we were able to, under the purchase agreement, go back and actually recoup some of that artificial overstatement in the value. So just a few examples of the things that can happen both leading up to a deal and then post deal, and why it's really important that as entrepreneurs, you shouldn't be expected to be focusing on this every day. You're trying to grow your business, and as Mark mentioned, blood, sweat, and tears go into that. But we have the resources and the know-how on our team to come in and help you, right? And uncover those risks and actually look at them. And then even more importantly, put plans in place to mitigate, because it's great to know, that there's risk somewhere, but it's another thing to actually come in behind and do it and execute to remove that risk, and ultimately leave you in with a better likelihood of closing a successful deal at some point in the future.
Wow. Yeah. Thanks for sharing those stories. Those are great examples to show, one of many things that can go wrong. And with all this that can go wrong and trying to operate your business on a day-to-day too, as an entrepreneur, Mark, can you talk to how Baton is helping make that easier for small businesses and the importance of a strong advisor to help you go through this process?
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think what's important, and I know small business owners, they want to do everything at their business, and they're putting out 90% of fires. They're trying to do every single role they can, and I know it's for love of the business, and probably a control aspect as well. But no one knows everything, and this holds true for growing or selling your business. A strong advisor network helps owners, to achieve their goals. Your advisor is your coach, so you want every advantage you can have in the world at the end of the day. As Pat said, when did you say 7%, Pat, was the number of transactions that actually happen?
It's actually 6%, but yeah, it's a small percentage.
Yeah. So if you want to be in that 6%, you obviously want to have every advantage you can have. The more we have, 3 amazing M&A advisors in house who are actually currently looking to hire 2 more, but they know so much more about you than selling your business, or, you know, the whole transaction process, you know, getting a valuation, doing a SWOT analysis on your business, you know, financial analysis stuff, you know, buyer seller meetings, like how are you supposed to do all of this on your own? And even the starting point is so important. You need to look to someone to get advice on this stuff, and someone needs to, you know, look at your business from a non-emotional aspect and say, okay, this is where you need to go if you want to grow it or if you want to sell it. And that's kind of something that we're trying to do at Baton. We get that valuation on the business. We do a valuation report call with the business owner. And then from there, you know, we will try and take on this advisory role based on experience. We've worked with a lot of small business owners, either looking to grow their business or sell. And also, you know, the acquisition advisors that we have in-house have years and years of experience selling businesses. So there's a strong likelihood they've seen a similar story to yours before, and will be able to apply their knowledge to that. So what I would say is, you know, kind of leave your ego aside and try and take a step back and say, I'm not the expert here. I don't know everything about this, and put your trust in someone that does know that. And you will be shocked at how much it'll benefit your business. So yeah, I think that would be my advice. And I know one of the advisors always says the owner is always working in the business, not at the business. And, you know, as I said, a lot of owners are making themselves too important a little bit, and they're trying to put out all these fires and, you know, not outsourcing anything. Whereas I think with Baton, and I know with Milestone as well, if you come get your valuation, get your evaluation report, speak to one of our advisors, you still haven't spent any money. There's no cost to do any of that, and it's well within your interest to get that advice from someone who's got, you know, years and years of experience doing this, and they could really help you either, you know, plan for the future, grow your business, look to when you can exit, or what would be the best strategy to do so. And I think there's a lot of value in that for sure.
I was just going to say, Mark, I think that's critical. And, you know, when I was in the private equity space, we would look at 400 to 500 deals a year. And so, you know, on our side of the table, we were looking at these businesses every day, and we had a pretty good feel for, you know, what the value was based on market. And I think that when you start thinking about a transaction or a liquidity event of some kind in the future, you know, most entrepreneurs have never been through this, right? They have never actually sold a business. And so it's unnatural. It's an unnatural process. And it's really important to rely on, you know, platforms, technology, and experience from advisors to understand that value. And, you know, I think that what we see in our space and what's happening in the market is that you have entrepreneurs that just are not ready, right? And we're trying to level the playing field and put them in a place where when the time comes to exit their business, they'll be on a level playing field, so that they won't get repriced on the deal, you know, midway through the transaction, which happens a lot, right? You get under what we call an LOI, which is a letter of intent, and you know, we get into diligence and we find something on the buy side, drive the value down, and then ultimately the deal is at risk at that point, right? It doesn't get done because the seller doesn't want to do it, or it gets done at a much lower multiple on the earnings or sales, or however it's valued. But we see that a lot, and we want to try to prevent that early in the process and drive that value up, and also protect it so that it doesn't get eroded through the process. So I definitely agree with you on that.
It sounds like for small business owners, there's a sense of ignorance is bliss, especially when 80% of their net worth, you said, is often tied up into their business. So if I don't know, I value my work higher than someone else is going to value, and I don't want to pay that much money to figure out what it's worth, and then figure out my advisor network. So with Baton and Milestone, where we can have a strong advisor network and then get a free evaluation, then I can, you know, uncover that ignorance, but then work and have a plan to work towards where I want to be and where I feel my business's value is. Is that correct? Am I correct in saying that ignorance is bliss is kind of the mindset, but this is why this is wrong?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, and as Mark mentioned earlier, I think that entrepreneurs get so caught up in the business that they don't focus on the business. And this is very much a way to start focusing on the business. I mean, the first step is knowing the value of it, right? And then I think the next step is where we come in, and that is ultimately we will help you uncover some of those issues, and paint a picture, tell a better story to a potential investor down the road. And I think that if you address them now and you get your house in order, um, everything that we fix, right, is one less thing to dig in on a deal. And we ultimately want to instill confidence in the marketplace, right? And we want to prevent, undue digging into any one area of the deal. We want to try to make sure that we look like we're tight and we have our house in order, our financials are good, our budgets are good, all of our cash flow forecasting is good. All of those things that make it look like we're really buttoned up. We want to do that so that we prevent any issues in a potential deal. And, what's happening, I think, more often now is I'm a firm believer that businesses don't necessarily get sold, they get bought, right? And what I mean by that is, you never know when an unsolicited offer is going to come, and you want to be attractive when it does come, right? And you want to be put together so that the process is smooth and you're not running into those pitfalls that I mentioned earlier. And so I think that as we look at market readiness, that is becoming intentional about doing that, so that in the future, when you go to do a deal, you don't run into any one issue, or you increase your likelihood of actually closing on that transaction.
Yeah, Pat, I think what you're saying there about getting your house in order is just so important, because especially the current financial climate and everything, you don't know what's around the corner, you don't know what's going to happen with your business. But if you are prepared, and preparation is probably one of the most important things about selling your business. If your business doesn't look and feel like a strong business, there's going to be nowhere near as many buyers interested in buying that. So I think getting your house in order, as you said, getting that valuation done, setting goals, understanding where your business sits in the market, where we'll do, a SWOT analysis on the business to understand, what your strengths, weaknesses are, what the opportunities are, what the threats are to your business. And if you can understand that today, whether you're looking to sell or not, then, you can really be sure that you'll be prepared if it does come a day where it's like, okay, maybe we should exit now. And it is a lengthy process to exit your business, as you guys know, but the earlier you start that, the more seamless it'll be when you do need to do it. So I think one of the main themes we always talk about is getting your house in order. And I think I liked your analogy of you wouldn't have your doorstep dirty if you're looking to sell. And I think you should prep for in that kind of sense too.
Yeah, and I think too, just to add to that point, Mark, as I mentioned earlier, the transaction process is very unnatural, and it also creates a burden internally, right? It's a disruptive process, and if you can rely, on an advisor or another team member to come in and help you get ready for that. So, when you're going through due diligence in a deal, there's this concept of a data room, and it's basically you uncovering everything that's in your organization, from legal to HR to finance, compliance, other areas of the business. And so part of our market readiness service actually will help you put that together. And so the reason that's important is because you start to look at contracts, right? Can I assign these contracts? Do I have IP agreements with my employees? All these things that maybe you haven't thought about to date. They help you become a better business, a stronger business, and you ultimately operate the business as if you're getting ready to sell. Again, I come back to that point. We get those documents into the data room, we review them, we help clients act now, right, to mitigate that risk down the road. And in that process, it's just good business. It's good business to have those documents in order, have accrual-based financials, have good forecasting, know what your cash flow looks like in 6 to 12 months. All those things that you should be doing already, we come in and help lift those up and make sure we're focused on those, so that it's not trying to recreate the wheel when you get to a deal, right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think we've talked about it in a roundabout way, and you guys have both mentioned that most entrepreneurs aren't serial entrepreneurs. So can you at a high level just talk about what takes place in a transaction, like what makes a deal get done?
I think when a business owner comes to Baton, I'll kind of go pretty high level on this. The initial things we want to find out, okay, what are their goals as a business owner, or what are they struggling with, or why have they come to get a valuation on their business, and that's the initial part of the process. Then we would do a valuation on the business. We'll have that valuation report call with them, and as I said, we'll try and understand, okay, if we're going through the transaction process, if they're looking to sell, let's do, SWOT analysis. Let's prepare your marketing materials. Let's make sure your books are in order, which is something we can't do. We don't do at Baton, and hence why we bring in incredible partners like Milestone have been so far. So that's where the process goes then. Then we'll start to, look at targeting buyers. One big thing we're trying to do at Baton is really leave the business in a good place. And if you've put 20-25 years of work or more into your business, the last thing you want is to see that business run into the ground, or to see it, not follow the mission that you had for it in the first place. So a large part of our process is really understanding, okay, what does that business owner want? Where do they want their business to go? And can we find the right buyer to take the business to where they need it? They might be retiring. They may, have kids and want to free up more time for themselves and their family. There's a multitude of different reasons why someone might want to, sell their business, and it is a scary process, but we're really trying to be hands-on in that sense. And I think then it goes on to where our advisor comes into play, and he starts trying to find out who is that buyer, setting up those buyer seller meetings, obviously doing the negotiating, closing, and then the transition to new owners. But Pat, you might want to jump in on the massive middle part of that, where you guys come into play on the getting your books in order and getting market ready, like we've already discussed a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Mark. And I think that, there's, the way I see it, there's 5 key parts of a deal, or getting to a transaction. The first would be the planning phase, right? So the planning and operating phase is kind of what you're doing every day. That's where Milestone comes in, right? So understanding, how the financial statements should be laid out. Are we tracking gross margin accurately? Do we have accrual-based accounting on the balance sheet? Are we doing all those things that need to be cleaned up? And a lot of times we find that small businesses just aren't focused on those. They're ultimately focused on growing their businesses, growing revenue, right, as they should be. And so we come in and try to help them clean that up and get them ready. So as we kind of think about market readiness, it's really in that first phase, that planning phase. And then as you go into considering, an exit or a capital raise or whatever it might be that you're getting ready for some event in the future, it's really selling, right? So you are going out, you're locating an investment advisor or an investment banking professional. And I love the fact that Baton has both the valuation piece and then can help connect you with an investment banker, because that's something that Milestone does not do. So we are there from day one in helping you plan and operate the business and present the business in the best possible light. But we do not represent businesses when it comes to going to market. We will help them through the diligence process. We will help them through the transaction, but we don't actually go out and create the market for that sale. And then, it kind of gets into an execution phase. So typically, the hope is that the business is in a good, healthy position and does garner a lot of interest in the marketplace. And then you would get multiple IOIs, which is an indication of interest. And then the serious buyers would actually put in an LOI, which is a letter of intent, which is typically a non-binding document that says, hey, I'm ready to go into diligence with your business. Due diligence is done, documents are prepped by the attorneys, and then you ultimately get to a close at some point. And as we mentioned, there's a lot of chance for that to get off the rails, right? So if you're tight up front, you have your process in order, you have a data room already built out, right? There's perceived value in that from the buyer, knowing that all that data is already ready. And I can't tell you how many times we'd get really serious with a potential seller of a business, and the financials were delayed, or the financials were off, or, they missed forecast by, $200,000 in 1 month, or whatever the number might be that was material to the financials. And it just doesn't elicit or instill any confidence, right? So then, okay, well, they're off on this month. What's wrong with the business? And then you start digging in as the buyer, and it just creates all these unnecessary traps that, we try to prevent up front by having clean, accurate financials and a good forecast. And so then you ultimately get to the close of the deal, where the cash is moved, the terms are executed on. And then the piece that I think people forget about is that integration piece, right? So that is where the teams are being integrated. The owner is either staying on. And I think that's, a really important part that gets overlooked in terms of what do you want to do? And it all kind of comes back to what's the value of my business? What do I want to go do with it? And ultimately they can either stay in the business or they walk away. But Mark mentioned it earlier, having a business that is able to operate and grow on its own is really critical, because if you drive the business forward and you want to walk away at some point, the value of the business isn't there anymore. And so it's really important that you start thinking about these things now, and become intentional about that, so that you don't run into an issue in the future where you can't, capture that value from your business.
Awesome. So we've talked a lot about evaluations and, getting your house in order, cleaning up. Can each of you give me maybe 2 to 3 things of the actual, not dusting the house, cleaning it up, staging it for our buyers with the business? Can you give me 2 things that business owners can do right now to either increase their current value or to get their house and ready for a potential sale?
Yeah, I'll lead off. I'll do one better. I'll do 3. I would say a good, accurate financial deck. And when I say financial deck, is your revenue and your cost of goods sold accurately stated? Is your gross margin accurate? Are you presenting the financials in a visually appealing way, right? Are you forward looking in terms of, do you get together and review your financials every month? Or do you actually have narrative and a forecast, and you're making decisions based on the data that's in the financials? Are you doing that? And the answer is typically no, because there's not enough time, there's not enough resource, whatever the answer might be. And so I think that's the first step, is really understanding your financials and making sure that you have a good, strong financial deck that gives you data to act upon in the future. So that's number 1. Number 2 would be, are you forecasting cash flow? Because cash flow is everything. And when it's not being done, when you're not looking at, not only just revenue and expenses, but are you tracking balance sheet movements? Are you tracking, payable terms, right? How long does it take you to pay your suppliers? How long does it take you to get money in from your customers? That impacts everything else in the business. And so if you wanted to spend $10,000 on marketing next month, but you don't have the funding to do it, it's going to hurt, right? And so having a good, accurate budget, and then, once you're operating in the current budget period, a forecast for cash flow in the future is really critical. And I'd say the third thing is, thinking about your cap table, and who are the investors in the cap table. If I want to go raise $3 million tomorrow, what does that look like? How does that drive the business forward? If I'm going to raise it from a venture capital firm and they want a 5x multiple on invested capital, what does my plan need to do over the next 3 to 5 years? And that's, forward thinking. But I think a lot of times small business owners don't start with the end in mind, right? And that's something that we can do at Milestone, is we come in and help them start to think about that and help them start to plan, for that liquidity event or for that capital raise or that business transition, depending on what their ultimate goal is. So those are 3 things that they could do now.
Yeah, I think Pat's still one of mine, but I would say, and not just because of me being with Baton, but I think knowing your valuation at first is so important in order to plan for your future. So if you were to sell your business tomorrow, how much would it be worth? And I think that's something that we're doing here at Baton, where you can understand that for free very accurately. So the valuations we're doing, they're not quick and easy, you know, to like some of the other valuations calculators online. Or a chartered financial analyst prepares your valuation through, you know, multiple analysis and sales comparables, and then tailoring off that and kind of based on something that Pat said, we also do, you know, a discounted cash flow analysis, which is a type of valuation that estimates the company's worth based on cash flow projections by the company's cost of capital. So that cost of capital is how much it would cost you to borrow money. So we can basically, you know, project future cash flows based on that. And I think that's a similar point to what Pat made. And then finally, I would say, you know, meet with an advisor and, you know, address, let's say, gaps with retirement plans, or what you need to do if you are looking to sell your business, or if you now know your valuation, what are the next steps if you want to get to this valuation. So yeah, they would be my three. Understand your valuation, you know, get a discounted cash flow analysis, or try and understand like projected future cash flows, which is something Baton's valuation and, you know, the analysis afterwards with our valuation report will highlight to you. And then, you know, meet with an advisor and understand, okay, what gaps in my business do I need to address? What is my plan for the future? You can discuss your future goals and your you know, personal goals with that person, and then you can accurately plan, okay, what are my next steps here? What do I want to do? Because as I mentioned earlier, no one is an expert in everything, and it's very beneficial at times to speak to someone who knows what they're talking about in terms of exit planning and sale of your business and valuations and all of that kind of stuff. So I would also throw in there, you know, as Pat mentioned, preparing your financials or making sure your books are in order. And we see a lot of business owners coming to us and they want to get a valuation on their business, but their books are just not clean at all, or it's very hard to look at their P&L and balance sheet simply, you know. So I think that's something that Milestone can really help businesses with, and I think that's why Baton and Milestone's partnership has been a success to date, and I think it'll be there'll be a lot more success in future, because both of our services are they kind of are very well aligned, but they work in tandem, where what we're doing and what Milestone is doing combined can you know, a perfect combination to help business owners prepare for exit or prepare for that eventual sale, you know.
Yeah, I agree. And I think Baton, the ability to go out and get, you know, a decent, accurate valuation basically for no money is huge, right? Because I was just having a conversation with a client a couple of weeks ago, and, you know, they asked me, should I go out, you know, this valuation expert wants to charge me $5,000, which is actually on the low end probably for a valuation. And my advice back was, no, I probably wouldn't do that now. If the event is 2 to 3 years in the future, I wouldn't put that money into it right now, because ultimately, you know, you're going to be worth what the buyer pays for you. And we all know that that's the case. And so, but understanding the marketplace and being able to work with a partner like Baton to put several different models together, discounted cash flow, comparable sales analysis, it gives us an opportunity to understand what drives the value of the business and then try to push that forward, right? And so I love Baton and what Baton is doing. The technology is great, and we're really excited to be working with Baton as a partner.
Yeah, and sorry, just one thing to add to that Pat kind of mentioned there. Our valuation, it's not just based on your financials. We also, you know, we've 4 million businesses in our database that we do comp analysis on. So we're basically comparing, you know, industry, region, size with your business, of sole business comps or business valuation comps, where we can understand, okay, let's say your business is a pizza restaurant in Brooklyn. We will compare your business to many different similar restaurants in that area, in that industry, obviously, and in this of a similar size, and that also factors into the accuracy of our valuation.
Awesome. So just to summarize, all that we've kind of been talking about, small business comes and the idea is you got to start with knowing your business, which is where Baton is. You know your valuation, you know comparable businesses, and you really get to understand where your business is now. Milestone comes in the middle. They help operationalize, basically moving your business forward and making sure that everything is neat in hands and you have good processes. And Baton is also the end, the marketplace where you can buy and sell businesses. Is anybody else doing what Milestone and Baton are doing? What differentiates you guys maybe from other people who are doing similar aspects? You can both speak respectfully. We'll start with Pat.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. And I think that there's a lot of buzz around exit planning in the last few years, especially. I mean, we have an aging population in our country, as we all know. And so people are getting more intentional about exit planning now, which is great. I would say, the closest thing to what we're doing with our market readiness service offering is probably a quality of earnings study, QOE, which is done for most deals, right? And that's a more traditional report on earnings and health of the business. So ultimately looking at, revenue growth and gross margins and profitability, usually looking at it by channel, right? Or by segment within the business. It's a good report. It typically costs anywhere between $30,000 to $60,000 for a public accounting firm to do that study. It's valuable. It helps provide some level of assurance to the buyer in the deal. I think that where we differ from that service or from other traditional accounting firms is we focus on solving problems and actually operating and executing. And so to become executional and saying, I know my revenue growth was 20% and my gross margins increased because of X or decreased because of COVID or whatever it might be, right? My shipping container cost $30,000 in September of 2021, but that's not normal. Being able to step in and present the story and solve some of those problems and actually deliver value via operating the business and helping the business owner think about those things is where we're a little bit different. And so I think that at Milestone, our hope is to actually get in, put solutions in place and fixes in place to help the business over the long term, and not just provide a piece of paper that tells you that your growth margin was 45% or whatever it might be. We like to be forward thinking, and we want to put the data together that's in a way that's digestible, but ultimately forecast out results and help the business owner make key decisions that drives the value of the business into the future.
Yeah, and some great points there, Pat. And I think with us, there's a lot of valuations calculators that you can do online, and we use. Our valuation is quite a bit more in depth than those, and we use 6 different methods of calculations to get your valuation, including financial reporting and intangible assets. These other valuations providers, they have more broad inputs, and they do like business type, last 6 months sales, current operating profit, and the owner's salary, and it doesn't go much further than that. We, as I mentioned earlier, we also leverage a database of 4 million businesses to help us understand how you compare to similar businesses in your industry and region and things like that. And also, I think, almost most importantly, I think during our process, and selling your business is a very scary thing, or even connecting all your financials to a platform can be intimidating, but you're assigned a dedicated guide at Baton, and they talk you through the valuation analysis and results and potential next steps. And this is all for free. And what we're trying to do is, we just think that small business owners should have access to this data of what their business is worth. And we think that it's quite, as I said, intimidating for someone to go and, first of all, sell their business, or to look to connect up all their financials. And we want to be that hands-on approach where we can walk them through the process. When someone starts to onboard with Baton, we have an initial call, if they would like, where we'll talk them through exactly what information we need to look at to get that valuation. Then when we do the valuation, which takes about 5 days or so. At the moment, we're trying to automate that process so it'll be quicker. But our CFA, you know, obviously has to go into all this detail. So that's the amount of time it takes right now. But you know, we really want to explain how we got to that valuation to that business owner, and in as much detail as they'd like, and be that, you know, that person that they can tell us all about their business. We want to hear about their goals. We want to hear about, you know, why they want to sell their business, all of that stuff. And I think if you look elsewhere in the market, it's very hard to find something like that, and especially it's very hard to find something like that at no cost. As we mentioned earlier, it can cost you $8,000 to $10,000 to get a valuation of similar accuracy to Baton's valuation. So I don't think that there is no one who's doing a valuation for free at that accuracy like we are. And the reason we're doing that is because we think our whole mission is that data should be accessible to business owners in order for them to plan for the future. And then we'd hope that the experience and the hands-on approach and having that guide who's like there every step of the way would give these business owners a great experience with Baton and allow them to see Baton in a good light, and almost there's an element of trust built up there, and that comes with our partners as well. We only want to work with people who are kind of mission aligned, but also who are some of the top players in their field, and that's why we've partnered with Milestone, because we know that they're really going to help a lot of the small business owners that we're working with. So I'd say one big differentiator for us with brokers or other valuations providers or people who or websites looking to sell small businesses is that our valuation is an extremely in-depth valuation at no cost to the business owner, as we feel like this should be something that they have access to. We then take on almost an advisory role in that grow element of things. So they know the valuation, then we kind of do the valuation report call, and we understand, okay, are you looking to sell your business, or do you think you'd like to grow your business further? That's where our network of partners come into play, like Milestone. And then, we have lending partners. And then if they needed a marketing agency, we have a marketing agency partner who can help them if they were looking to go D2C or, do some sort of digital marketing. And the list of partners goes on, but they're all, trusted partners and experts in their field. And then the final part is sell, obviously. And we want to be there every step of the way. We have an M&A advisor who will work with that business owner to walk them almost through the deal from start to finish, find the right buyer, and kind of match the right buyer to the right business owner. And we, as a business, I know everyone's probably like, okay, if everything's for free up until then, where do you make your money? We take 6% of the sale price if your business sells. And that's, traditionally much lower than any broker out there. They're usually between 10 and 20% is the fee they would take. So it's kind of, we're building a marketplace for small businesses, but to begin with, we're trying to, allow businesses have access to reliable data, and then, plan for the future from there. So yeah.
I love that. And if I can just add to that, Mark, I think that what differentiates, Baton and Milestone is really the fact that we're working together in a complementary fashion. And, understanding, being able to get a valuation of this quality for free, it doesn't hurt, right? There's no obligation. There's nothing that comes with that. It's truly value add. And that's what we're after. We're both trying to create value for our clients. And when it comes to working with any advisor, experience matters. And we have the experience on our team to be able to help add value. And getting a valuation is one thing, but being able to connect with advisors to help you build upon that value is something that, I just don't see happening in the marketplace elsewhere at this point.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for highlighting those different points. Is there anything else that I haven't touched on that you guys want to speak to about, small business owners and the valuation of their business, transactions, Baton or Milestone specifically?
I don't have anything. I think, it's been a really good conversation today. I think, just to kind of drive home, it doesn't hurt to have a conversation, right? Even if you're not planning to sell your business tomorrow, right? We want to help clients and add value along the way through that entrepreneurial journey, if you will. And so please feel free to reach out. We'll follow up with contact information, ways that you can get in touch via the Milestone website on the lead form. But we'd love to have a conversation with anybody who's interested, and ultimately really are looking forward to working with Baton in the future.
Yeah, and just kind of piggybacking off what Pat said there, we don't, like, sometimes people are mistaken when they say to us, "Oh, I'm not looking to sell my business right now, so I don't need to work with Baton." And I appreciate that if that's how they feel, but we kind of think that everyone should have access to this. Everyone should know their valuation. We have no issue with a business owner coming to us, getting a valuation, and then just taking that and using that for their own needs. They're completely within their right to do that. And obviously, as I said, that would be of no cost to them. And then obviously, if you come get a valuation, and then you do the valuation report call, and we start to identify potential opportunities for growth, or a potential exit, then it would be great to work with you. But I think the first step in this is understanding how much your business is worth today, and then you can make plans for the future. So I think this partnership with Baton and Milestone is really a strong combination in allowing business owners to be market ready and prep for sale if they look to do so. But there's also a lot of value before that, if you were to understand your financials, clean up your books, understand how much your business is worth. So as Pat said, there's no harm in a conversation, or just taking a look at what we have to offer.
Awesome. Yeah, well, thank you guys for your time today. It's been awesome chatting with you and learning more about transactions and what Milestone and Baton have to offer for small business owners. So thanks for your time, and have a great rest of your day.